Free picks and analysis in Tigers, Royals, Mets, Nationals, Yankees, Mariners, and we got some best bets for free coming your way. Guardians and Twins and Rangers and Blue Jays. All that and more coming your way here on First Pitch, WagerTalk TV. Dan Alexander here in the driver's seat, and joining me, Bryan Power, and not his better half, but Adam Trigger joining us. So not the full Morning Wager crew, but the guy who gets called out of the bullpen when Zeno's just God knows where he is. We got Adam Trigger joining us here as well, boys. Excited with a great Wednesday slate here, and I say we get right into it with you, BP. You've been seeing it well, at least as far as things are concerned, much to my chagrin, on the gridiron. But let's talk some baseball here with the Tigers and Royals. Looking at the WagerTalk live odds screen, and it looks like in some shops we're seeing some money coming in on the dog here, looking to back Marsh as he's opposing Skubal here this evening. So what do you think about that money coming in on the dog? You agree with that one, Bryan? How are you looking to bet this one?
Yeah, Dan, seeing things well on the gridiron. I cursed your name most of the day Monday until I didn't have to curse it anymore, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. I do agree with how the money is coming in here on Tigers-Royals. Look, I know Skubal's pitching for the Tigers, but that alone does not justify how the odds makers opened this one from a pricing perspective. Let's talk about the fact Kansas City, the last two games, guys, went off as a $1.25 and a $1.53 favorite. Now, they lost both those games, okay, but they were coin flip games. The Tigers rallied from a 4-run deficit to win on Monday, 7-6, and then yesterday won an extra inning. So not dominant efforts by the Tigers. I think last week on the show, Trig talked about the Tigers and how surprising this late season run is. They kind of waved the white flag at the deadline, right, by trading Flaherty, but here they are. They're still live for the wild card, but I do not see the Royals being swept at home. This is a better team at home than on the road, a much better team at home than on the road, quite frankly, Dan. I've talked about it all season. At Kauffman Stadium, they walk way more than they do on the road, and they strike out way less. And let's go back to Skubal, okay, because he's the key to the hand. If you like Detroit, it's because you like Skubal. Well, he has not pitched well the last two times he started against the Royals. He's given up a total of 9 runs in 11 and a third innings. Then you bring up Marsh, career high in strikeouts last Friday with 11, and he's allowed 2 earned runs or less in 5 straight outings. This Royals team, again, much better at home than on the road. I just don't see them getting swept. Great price in a desperate spot as Kansas City. I think they're pretty good wild card wise, but they're thinking Division II. So I will take KC at the plus price for my big game breakdown.
Some plus money on the Royals out the gate, says our man Bryan Power, or according to Eric D in the chat, Greg Brady is back. Yes, he is. Yes, he is indeed. Hopefully providing some winners for the folks here. Adam Trigger joining us as well. Trig, let's talk Mets and Nationals, excuse me. Mets looking for the sweep here today. You got to lay quite the price if you want to back them. Still, not terrible, around that minus 165 mark. How are you looking to bet this one? You think the sweep is good? Because the Mets, clearly they have plenty to be playing for here, but with this sweep and the upcoming schedule, looking to all but lock up their playoff hopes, which if you asked a couple months ago would have been just laughable with how this team was playing, and now continue the hot streak. How are you looking to bet this one, Trig? The hot streak continuing?
Team matchup for the Mets. Like the way these two teams match up suggests the Mets should bury them every time. It's basically what's happened so far this season. Mets are 10-2 against the Nats. They're likely going to be 11-2 after today. And here's the reason why. You have a Mets team that destroys left-handed pitching. Number 1 in Major League Baseball in slugging percentage against lefties. It's almost all lefties with the Nationals. Mitchell Parker yesterday. You're going to see DJ Hurst today. And then on the other side, you have a Nationals lineup that even with some of these new guys that have come up, James Wood, so on and so forth, they still struggle against left-handed pitching. So Nats have been terrible against left-handed pitching all year. You have to take that with a grain of salt to an extent because it's a different lineup than it was at the beginning of the season. But still, a lot of these guys are struggling against left-handed pitching, and you're going to get a good one here, at least one that's been good lately in Quintana for the Mets. Now, Mets starting pitching, Dan, in general, in the month of September has been lights out. Starting pitching ERA this month is 1.90, and Quintana, in his last 4 starts, is a 0.36 ERA, 16.2 scoreless innings in a row, and his last 5 starts against the Nationals, his ERA is under 1. This season alone, 14 scoreless innings against the Nats. So sometimes I like to play against stuff like that, because of course, how long is Quintana going to go without giving up a run? That's stuff that is always on my radar. But in this case, I don't see where the success coming against a lefty that's locked in is coming from the Nationals, I guess is the point I'm trying to make. Now, the Mets, I think this line is slightly discounted with the fact that Lindor is out or likely out again. But, it's late in the season. You're going to get Luis Angel Acuna some playing time. He's hit the ball extremely well at Syracuse all year. So I don't think it's for a very short-term time, it's not like a huge – I wouldn't make a huge difference in the number, especially against a sort of inferior team like the Nationals. And then I'm going to go back to the Nationals hitting left-handed pitching. Like I said, leading Major League Baseball in slugging percentage against lefties. And something that I brought up, I think, when I was on this show with Bryan maybe last week or the week before, was that DJ Hers for the Nationals was benefiting in the second half of the season from being behind Irvin, a right-handed pitcher. In 10 starts since the All-Star break, Hers has a 2.76 ERA, but almost all of them have come either in the first game of a series or behind a right-handed pitcher. Now in this series, it got shuffled around a little bit. He has to follow Mitchell Parker, and that is not a good scenario. That hasn't been a good scenario for these Nats lefties because you've got guys like Corbin, Gore, Parker, Hers, who are all very similar. And so now you're going to give a Mets team that does extremely well against left-handed pitching another look at a left-handed pitcher back-to-back days after they just lit up Parker yesterday. I just don't see how that plays well for the Nats. The Mets, as you said, need this game. Minus 160 prize is probably not high enough. I make this more like $2, so I like the Mets here.
Well, at least one person in the chat, and I think it's Brian Power's burner account. The username is Master Bator, and they're saying
definitely is
Mets
burner.
minus 2.5. So Brian and I, he was slacking me on the side saying, I got to go get my phone. I like to check the chat while we're on air here, and now I know why. So his username, Master Bator, could hop in and say he agrees with Adam Trigger's play there, minus 2.5. Brian, should help you sleep. So don't worry about that.
Thank you for that.
There.
I knew that was coming.
Got a comment here on TikTok from our man Tree Warrior, and I think the bet is already placed because he's saying Sonny Gray has to go over 6.5 Ks today. That's the Pirates and the Cardinals. I mean, let's be real, Brian. For the Cardinals, really the only thing that's gone all that great for them this season has been Sonny Gray's outings. So sitting at 6.5, 115 either way. So it's just a customary prop price that you have on this one, going up against a not exactly a murderer's row of hitting that you have here with the Pirates lineup. Woodford, it looks like that's going to be the probable pitcher. WagerTalk live odds screen confirming that for the Pirates, but at least one side of the equation, 6.5 Ks for Sonny Gray. Is that in the realm of outcomes going over for you this evening?
Maybe. I've disappeared off the screen, it looks like. Oh, there I am again. Okay.
It was a great improvement. It was a big improvement.
Well, I knew it was kind of, I said, what game, what are we doing now? How are we going to, yeah, I'll tell you what, they're killing me in the headphones. Anyway, St. Louis, okay? This is a team that has surprised me, Dan. You talk about, what's gone right for them, what's gone wrong. This is a team that is clearly overachieved. They have the 4th worst run differential in the National League, yet have a winning record. That they've had me scratching my head many times this season. Now, Gray has kind of been the one consistent guy in this rotation. If you like the strikeout prop, I'm not going to talk you off of that. Pittsburgh is absolutely dreadful against right-handed pitching. They are tied for 29th. There are only 30 teams, though, by the way, in WRC+. Woodford, a great bourbon. He is not a good starting pitcher, so I can't disagree with this pricing either. St. Louis, a justifiable favorite. I on the Power 5 earlier this week, I said to take the Cards as dogs against Skeens. That worked out. Obviously, the price has me off the side here, so I won't talk you off the Gray strikeout prop because you have Pittsburgh versus righties. That's why they're in last place, quite frankly, Dan, in the NL Central. They stink against them.
While you're hanging out, make sure you hit that like button. If you haven't already, subscribe. The little bell will get you notified when we go live. Those of you over on TikTok, appreciate you. Keep those likes and follows coming. Same could be said for X and Instagram. We appreciate you checking us out. And you can find us wherever you want to find us. We are everywhere. WagerTalk TV. Trig, late night game, Yankees and Mariners looking like Cortez and Miller. Pretty much it could be punch the ticket time for Yankees if they can get it done here against the Mariners. Tight price on the nightcap here. Anything stand out to you other than the fact that Juan Soto is just an absolute tank and continues to be so? Any bets for you late night?
I mean, I had the Mariners last night. This was my 5% play yesterday. I thought everything set up for them to have success in that game. If you follow the Yankees and how they play typically when they come off of the series with the Red Sox, it's usually a good fade. If you look at this season alone, they've lost every series after playing Boston, except for the series against your Phillies, Dan, which I think was like almost like an outlier because that was kind of a huge series. It was a weekend series. Every game was like a sort of like a primetime type game, and it was in Philly. And then they followed that up by struggling against the Blue Jays and the Angels. So I came into this thinking that there would be some value on the Mariners. Of course, the Mariners came into yesterday just 2 games back of a wild card spot. They finally got the bats going over the weekend. And what did they do? They come out and just lay an egg last night. Victor Robles, I'm sure, I don't know if Brian Powers saw this play, but he'd be ripping that nice hair of his out. If you saw what Victor Robles did in the first inning of that game yesterday, completely, and I know it ended up being a blowout, but that very well cost him the game in the first inning. He stole home or attempted to steal home with a 3-0 count with the bases loaded when Luis Gil could not throw a strike to save his life. The Mariners could have ended up with a 5 spot in the first inning, instead ended up with nothing, which is just, man, the way that game went last night, it's tough to want to come back with them here. I want to, I like Miller. He's this is what I've been saying about the Mariners all year. The pitching is elite. Their pitching staff, top to bottom, is as good as you're going to find. Miller's probably my favorite of the bunch to back from where he gets priced standpoint. I don't know that he should be an underdog here to Nestor Cortez in this scenario, but the way that game played out last night makes it somewhat difficult to come back, to stomach coming back with the Mariners here. It was just such a poor effort, so poorly played that I'm worried that might spill over into this game. But you can't deny the Yankees are not in the most favorable spot here, Dan. They if you look every single series this year following the Red Sox, and I'm sure this is historical as well. I think they dropped 2 of 3 to the Orioles, dropped 2 of 3 to the Rays. There was another one where they struggled, and like I said, they kind of rode that win streak off the last one into the Phillies series, but then struggled against the Blue Jays and the Angels at home. So I lean toward the Mariners. I'm not sure if I'll actually get there, but I'm very frustrated with how that played out last night. I don't know if I can come back with it. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but that's just how I see this game.
Yeah, I mean, one more win for the Yankees and at least a wild card berth. So I almost feel like the spot where I would want to fade the Yankees is whatever game after they end up locking that up and maybe a little bit of a letdown spot there.
In the same breath, if they don't win, they're probably going to win tomorrow or the next day. So I don't know that's a massive motivator for them.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree because they have the Oakland A's up next. It's not like they're chomping at the bit or they're saying, "Oh God, if we don't get it done, what are we going to find at least one win against Oakland? 3-game set against Baltimore, right. Wrap up against a dead Pittsburgh team." I don't think it's do or die.
I don't know if I don't know if I made it clear enough. Without a doubt, I like the Mariners. I'm close. I haven't put it on my card yet, but it's on my short list for today.
So there you go. Little breakdown there from our man Adam Trigger. WT.buzz/AT is where you can find him. BP, if you want to, give any thoughts about the playoff push, when maybe the Yankees lock it up, feel free to. But question here from Drew Schultz asking about the Astros and the Padres. So any thoughts in that one? 640, and it looks like we're going to have Fromber on the mound there going against Dylan Cease. So by name, good pitching matchup here if you just look at the names of the starting pitchers. But as the Padres are looking to wrap this up, continuing pushing forward towards that postseason that they've been eyeing all year long. So for you, anything stand out to you, Astros and Padres?
Yeah, just a few things. Going back to that last game, the Yankees-Mariners game that Trig touched on. Remember, with the Yankees, there may not be necessarily the letdown after they clinch the playoff spot, because this is a team that's also trying to lock down home field advantage throughout the American League playoffs. So I know the players, usually after they clinch a playoff spot, get hammered. But in this case, the Yankees may want to stay sober for the rest of the games because they do, again, home field advantage. I think it's going to be a big deal in the AL playoffs. Now, Dan, it seems that you are trying to open last night's wounds for both Trig and I here on the show, because he had to remember that play at the plate yesterday for the Mariners. I had the Padres last night against the Astros. They had a guy on third base in the bottom of the 10th with nobody out, and guess what? He didn't score, and the Padres lost, and that was really just a kick in the pants for yours truly. We've got a great – I'm not on this one today because it's a great pitching matchup. Mark Zinno on the Morning Wager actually gave out the over, despite these two guys, how good they can be, Valdez and Cease. It's a low number. So from that perspective, I can maybe understand. I think this is maybe a potential World Series preview we're looking at here. I don't want to fade either pitcher, though. So it was, honestly, I apologize for this weak response, but this was an easy pass for me. I respect both these teams. I respect both pitchers. So why would I fade either of them here in this spot?
Hey, all good. We expect the weak responses, so no worries
I'll throw
on
something
that one.
in there, though. I got. I guess Brian's response is, I don't think it was weak by any means. I think he's very much I think he's right in the fact that this could very well be a World Series matchup. These two teams are that good. I've said for months that I thought the Padres were the best team in the National League. I still think they are. The Astros are slowly emerging as a really strong contender in the American League. When you start to look at those American League teams right now, Dan, outside of the Yankees, I think the next team most baseball people would come up with is the Astros at this point. They're playing fantastic ball, right now when it matters the most. The only thing I lean Astros here, just because the Padres have a little bit of bullpen fatigue going on. I think Adam went down the other night. I don't know what his status is long term, but I do think they're at least without him for a period of time. And I know coming into the week, their bullpen was pretty used up. So you talk about a matchup like this when you have two elite, what would have become elite starting pitchers in Cease and it's Valdez. And I just think that if you had to bet this game, it being as it may, like minus 105 both ways, pretty much I guess you would call it a coin flip. I'd probably lean toward the team that I think has the better bullpen at this point, because there's not much else that I can find to differentiate between these two teams. So for that reason, I would lean Astros. And again, this is another one that was close for me. Probably the only reason I didn't play this is because I didn't play the Astros yesterday, and I felt like I missed my chance. And so they were close on my list yesterday. I didn't play it. They win. Harder to come back with them tonight, but that's certainly the way I would look at this one.
Best bets coming up: Guardians, Twins, Rangers, Blue Jays. That's where the guys are going to give you some free best bets. You can check out some client plays of these guys over at WagerTalk.com. WT.buzz/deals can save you some coin on those client plays as well. We'll talk a couple of these early games before best bets, because questions have been coming across here about Cubs potentially being a piece to throw in the parlays as folks are looking at backing Steele as he's going against Basso. Battle of the lefties going at 220 Eastern time today with the A's and the Cubs. How are you looking to bet this one? You have anything for the folks in the early game, Bryan?
Yeah, I like the under in this game. Talked about it on the Power 5 each of the last 2 days. I like Monday. The under did not hit last night. It did hit. The bullpens were both great. I like both these bullpens. And you got to talk about the Cubs at home, what we see from them at the plate. They average a full run less per game at Wrigley than they do on the road. Now, just to quantify that a little bit, like how big of a difference is full run per game less? Well, they're fourth on the road in scoring, but 25th at home. So that's split pretty sharp there, Dan. And in terms of giving up runs, I think they're number 2 behind Seattle in fewest runs allowed at home. So at the friendly confines, runs have been scarce this year. You talk about Justin Steele. I'm a fan of his. Now, he is coming off the IL, which is always sort of, you have to be careful there. He hasn't pitched since August 27th, but his last 5 starts, not only did they all end in Cubs victories, but he posted a 2.02 ERA. So he was good before going on the IL. And then you look at Oakland, bottom 5 in the league in runs per game overall. I'm not really scared of their offense here. Basso, the young southpaw, he's been pretty good, though. This is where I would be a little nervous about playing the Cubs at the big price on the money line. Basso's made 2 starts, and he's not allowed to run in 11 2/3 innings in that role. So under 7.5 is the way I would play this one. Getaway day on the north side. You talk about drinking. I think Oakland's just looking to get out of town maybe a little bit. We usually see fewer runs in these day games, and that's what I think we'll see here.
Yeah, you might not be wrong there. Hop below in the comments. Let us know what your best bets are. The guys are coming up here in just a few. Trig, the chat on TikTok and the chat on YouTube asking for you specifically for this game because nobody handicaps bad teams like you do. The Diamondbacks and the Rockies. The Diamondbacks have been playing like a bad team. The funny thing is probably most people circled this as, they're going to play the Colorado Rockies, Coors Field. We're going to be looking at overs all day, the best hitting team in baseball. And I guess going to altitude is what thinned everything out for this D-backs hitting lineup. So the question is simple from the folks. Does Trig think the sweep happens today? I think the one little maybe wrench that's thrown in it is the fact that it's going to be Gomber on the mound for the Rockies as they aim for the sweep with not really anything else to play for other than playing a little bit of spoiler. It hasn't only just been wins, man. It's been dominant wins for this Colorado Rockies team, especially last evening. 3-10 is going to be the series finale here today. Does the sweep happen? The folks need to know from you, Trig.
I don't think the sweep happens. I'm not dying to play the Diamondbacks, but I want to just go real quick because I looked at the bullpen usage charts for the Padres. I would definitely lean stronger toward the Astros. The Padres have used a ton of bullpen the last couple of days. Adam did pitch, but I think he's now pitched three days in a row. So I thought he may have tweaked something, but even if he didn't, you're not going to see him here. You might not even see Suarez. Like there's a lot of key arms that have thrown quite a bit the last couple of days for the Padres. So definitely into the Astros there. Let's go back to Diamondbacks and Rockies. I guess the main thing. So I'm not dying to lay $1.60 with Arizona on the road, but I think you have to look at like Colorado. I've been kind of looking at their bullpen usage. There's a couple of really good bullpen arms that I like down there that I think make them a little bit undervalued right now. In Luis Peralta and then Angel Shavili, who I've talked about on the show. I've actually looked for spots to back the Rockies when I know those two are going to pitch. And kind of missed my chance in this series with the Rockies getting it done the last 2 days. But they did get used. I think Peralta's now maybe pitched, maybe 3 of the last 4 days. I know Trevili was in the game last night. So, if you and the other thing to point out, and really this is like probably the most important thing to note in regards to the Rockies' top bullpen arms is this Colorado team doesn't have anything really to play for at this point. So you're not going to see them approach a series like they're not just going to put those guys out there just because they could potentially win another game. Like that's not the goal for Colorado right now. It's obviously keeping guys healthy, spreading the work around and so on and so forth. So I think you maybe get some of the lesser Colorado pen arms behind Gomber here. And I don't know that that's a recipe for success for Colorado. So definite lean toward Arizona. Can't stomach laying minus 160, but I think they probably probably leave town with at least one today.
WT.buzz/AT is where you can find him over at WagerTalk. He'll let you know what he has up in just a few moments over at his page. Bryan, last one before best bets. The Orioles, 3 losses out of their last 4. Absolutely rolled in on Tuesday. 10-0 was the what they dropped to San Francisco with Snell on the mound. So we got Birdsong and Kremer in this one. Bounce back for the O's. I mean, people have been in the chat talking about how inconsistent the Yankees are. The O's are in that same boat, man. If you just look at their record alone, you would think, finally towards the end of the year, maybe they're going to catch their stride heading into the end of September, get ready for October. It's been the exact opposite, and none more so than the absolute humbling that they had Tuesday against the Giants. Does that spill over into today, or we maybe get a little bit of fight back here from the O's? Because there was none of it yesterday.
Yeah, this has been a long-term issue. We talked a little bit about on the Morning Wager, Zino and I this morning. Dropped 8 of 11 have the Orioles here, and they're averaging less than 2 runs per game during that stretch. So if you're willing to pay the juice, I love the idea of taking the 1.5 run head start with the Giants here. It'll cost you, but it's the way I would play it. You mentioned the 10-0 win last night, Dan. That was Blake Snell and 4 relievers, allowing just 5 hits. And the Orioles are kind of in disarray. I get a little concerned when these players are talking about how they're walking up to the batter's box in a different way. I think this team is lost. This is the first time in 3 years that Baltimore is kind of been in a consistent money-losing stretch. I look at the starting pitching matchup for today. You get Birdsong for the Giants. I know they haven't been winning with them on the mound, but he tossed 5 shutout innings his last time out. And Kremer, he's as inconsistent as they come. He's had some good starts recently. He's had some disappointing ones. But for the year, 4.28 ERA, 1.39 WHIP here at Camden Yards. I don't trust him. Giants run line is how I would play this one if your juice tolerance goes that high, because Baltimore is just not a team I want to be backing right now. They are, as I said earlier, in disarray.
Yeah, disarray indeed. WT.buzz/BP is where you can find his client plays. All right, boys, let's talk some best bets. Trig, we're going to start with you. I know you gave the transparency mentioning that the 5%er just didn't quite go your way, but outside of that, it's been great on the diamond. Over 58% or just around 58% that you'd been seeing it. If you add in what you're doing on the KBO basis, and right now at your page, folks can get the rest of the MLB season through the World Series and lock in KBO for free. So a league that is just set it and forget it, wake up and have cash in your account is kind of how we look at the KBO as the games are going at like 5 a.m. But folks can get your MLB, get your KBO for free. Great deal there. So you can tell folks you're pumped up about that. And also let us know, best bet, how are we betting this Rangers and Blue Jays game tonight?
Yeah, so that special's on my page. It's MLB KBO the rest of the way, through the Korean Series, through the World Series, obviously. It's at a discounted price. As far as today is concerned, though, I owe you guys one. I had a lot of people. First of all, thank you, everyone, for taking advantage of the $5 Tuesday play. I wish my 5%er with the Mariners could have got there. You can blame Victor Robles for that, although they did lose by about 100. So I don't know if we can just blame Victor Robles only for that. But I'm going to try to get it back for you. So this is a client play for me. I'm just going to give it out here for free on the show today. I love the Texas Rangers tonight for a couple of reasons. First, we're going to play against Bowden Francis again. So if you have not been following what the lowly Blue Jays have been doing for the past 2 months, which I don't expect many of you have, Bowden Francis has been on a run for the ages. He has a 1.50 ERA since August 7th. Opponents are hitting 101 against him. It's a real number. They're hitting 100 against this guy. And I, for the life of me, cannot figure out how that's possible. Especially, in his last start, his velocity was down, and somehow he managed to take a no-hitter into the 9th inning for like the second time in the last month. I watched every pitch of that game, the Mets. It was a combination of over-aggressive bad at-bats and just rockets hit right at fielders until until Francisco Lindor finally put one about 450 in the ninth inning to tie the game, and the Mets, eventually ended up winning that game. It's a 4% play for me in that game. One thing I noticed, so believe it or not, we have context for Bowden Francis coming off of a game where he took a no-hitter into the ninth inning, because like a couple weeks earlier, he did it against the Angels, Dan, and that no-hitter was broken up on a solo home run. But the next start, he only threw 70 pitches, and it wasn't because he was pitching poorly. It was just, again, the Blue Jays are out of it. Francis is like one of their young kind of studs, up-and-coming players. They're not going to push him deep, and they're even less likely to do it in a road game. It'd be one thing if he was pitching at home in front of the home fans, but he's not. So I think you're going to see a shorter outing from Francis here, and I also wouldn't be surprised if this is where the train falls off the tracks a little bit. Like, the velo being down is extremely concerning. The hard hit ball luck can't last forever. It's just, you give up enough hard contact at some point. Some of those balls are going to touch green grass or leave the ballpark or both. And I think you could see that happen here. Remember, he came out through 117 pitches against the Angels, took a no-hitter into the ninth inning. Next start, 70 pitches. Last week, 111 pitches, took a no-hitter in the ninth inning against the Mets. This start, probably going to be short. And then what do you have after Francis? One of the worst bullpens in baseball. The Blue Jays, dead last in certain bullpen metrics, have pretty much been a bottom bullpen team all year. They rate out similar in the bullpen to the White Sox and the Rockies, teams that we try to avoid like the plague, or most people do, right? Like, so, but the Blue Jays don't quite get that same sort of hate from the betting market. They're still, even they're so far out of it, they're still priced competitively. This actually ticked. I'm seeing the graphic on the screen say Rangers minus 130. That actually ticked down. It was minus 110 no more than a half hour ago when I locked it in for clients, and I would actually play it, all the way up to minus 125, minus 130. Cody Bradford, if you take out his last start against the Diamondbacks, his numbers were bordering on elite as well. A 0.96 whip is fantastic for a starting pitcher. Most of his sort of negative numbers were accumulated in one start, which last time out against the Diamondbacks. So if he bounces back with a strong outing, which I think he will, I think the Rangers might get to Francis, and this might be a blowout win. So Rangers 4% play. I played it at minus 112, I think, but I'd play just about any reasonable juice there. I think it's a good spot for them tonight.
Rangers on the money line, and yes, indeed, we have seen that tick down a little bit. We've also seen some money here showing for the under, so looking towards the Rangers fading what the market is saying. Trig says, don't you worry, we're just getting a better price. Rangers money line over the Blue Jays. Best bet for Adam Trigger. BP, what do you have locked and loaded over at your page? Like I said, much to the chagrin of my Eagles, who you faded on Monday, I'll give you your flowers. You got the winner, and you are number one in football, and you're combining NFL and college football. 68% you're humming them at this year. Hell of a run you've been on. So tell folks what you got locked and loaded heading towards this weekend, and let us know what your best bet is. Guardians and Twins. You go into this one, BP? Does that mean we're betting under if you're making a trip to the ballpark? Guardians and Twins, how are we betting it?
I am going tomorrow, not tonight, because it is a day game, and I love myself a day game at Progressive Field. We'll get to Guardians Twins in just a minute. Dan, you mentioned it, number one in football so far to start the season. It was a 4-0 NFL Week 2. We're 27-13 our last 40 in college football going back to the end of last year. Football, some call it soccer. We're number one there since April. Number 3 in NBA last season. We've got that great NBA season special people could take advantage of. There's just one problem, Dan. My baseball has sucked over the last week. I'm going to own it. It has been bad. So like Trig, I'm going to give you my only client play today, free of charge here on First Pitch. Always pays to watch First Pitch. And I'm going with the hometown Cleveland Guardians in this game. These teams have exchanged wins the first 2 games. Guardians win Monday. They rally in the bottom of the 8th. Incredibly, Dan, the Guardians, who have the most come-from-behind victories in all of baseball this season with 40, they have not lost a game when entering the 9th inning with a lead in over a year. So a tip of the cap to Emmanuel Clase there. Just a stud closer they've got. But Minnesota was the team that homered in the 8th to put things to bed last night. They win 4-1. Guardians had their chances late, though. They had the bases loaded in the 9th. Couldn't get anyone home, but this has been a great team at home this season, 46-28 at Progressive Field. Tanner Bybee on the mound. The team is 3-0 when he starts against the Twins this year. And Bybee's been great in those 3 starts. He's allowed 1 earned run each time, 22 strikeouts in 18 innings pitched. You look at Bailey Ober going for the Twins. He had that great run a few weeks ago. He's starting to regress a little bit. He allowed 5 earned runs his last time out. He's much worse at night, 4.82 ERA than he is during the day, 2.90 ERA. So I believe it's a slight starting pitching edge to the Guardians, Dan, but a big edge in the bullpen. The Guardians always have the edge in the bullpen. They have the best bullpen in the sport. I mentioned Clase. Well, the entire relief corps has the number 1 ERA in all of baseball. Minnesota's bullpen is 21st in ERA. I like the price on the Guardians at home. The Guardians, they're safely in the playoffs. The Twins, they're going to be hanging on by a thread the rest of the way, I think. So give me Cleveland, minus 120 on the money line. That is my show best bet.
Cleveland, the best bet for the guys dropping some free client plays for you. Men of the people, Brian Power and Adam Trigger. So in case you're just joining us, looking towards the Guardians money line and the Rangers money line, 2 great prices for the free best bets for the guys here today. Hop below in the comments. Let us know what your best bets are on the way out. Make sure, if you haven't already, if you're on social, hit that follow button here on YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment below. We would appreciate it. Until next time, folks, best of luck. Cash those tickets. Don't go anywhere, though, because WagerTalk today coming up your way just about 20 minutes from now. We're going to have Ralph Michaels. We're going to have Tokyo Brandon breaking down some MLB, any games that you didn't hear here. You're going to have some college football from Steve Merrill, one of the best. Teddy Covers with a big game breakdown coming up in the Seattle Seahawks and Dolphins game. And, of course, Prez doing whatever Prez does. So definitely reasons to stick around here and coming your way this evening. Bet on it. College football, bet on it. NFL. So hit that little bell. You'll know the second that those get up. Beat some of these line moves. Let's get those CLV trophies all together. Until next time, folks, best of luck. Cash those tickets. We'll see you locked and loaded 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. on the West Coast. First pitch coming your way Thursday. Until then, best of luck.